Look at this. I got headphones on. I got a mic going. Baby.
If
Huh?
only people could see you now.
Hey, no video. We've gone through this before.
All right,
No
all right,
video.
all right. Welcome to This Commerce Life. This is a podcast aimed at small, medium entrepreneurs focused on commerce. I'm Phil, your host, and Kenny, your co-host, will join us as well. And we're going to talk to you about the world of retail and commerce and how things are changing in the world.
I love I kept thinking, I was like, should I dress up for this? And all that kept flashing in my mind was no video.
No video. Exactly. Remember what we said. No video.
But we are on YouTube now. Nobody really watches us on YouTube.
We shouldn't be
Oh,
anywhere where
great.
people see us.
We are.
There should be a law.
Well, lucky to the YouTube viewers of my nice attire.
Poor YouTube people.
Yeah.
YouTube people. It's
Nice.
so funny. How are you?
Good.
We could have changed this time, eh? Like we could have moved it till tomorrow if you needed to.
No, this is the excitement of my riveting life that I lead. That by 7 p.m. I'm already getting ready.
We're
for bed.
very sorry.
Oh, so we're pushing your sleepy time.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're pushing your sleepy time. Yeah.
then I don't care. Whatever.
Yeah.
You figure it out.
I think I've got 20 more weeks of this luxury, right? And then
Oh yeah, and then no sleepy
Yeah, and then
time.
trust
Then
me,
it's
then
no
it's
for
sleep
like
over.
at all.
10 years, I think.
Or
Yes.
yeah, something like that. No,
21.
you'll survive. We all did.
Yeah,
I think we
exactly.
got our first real good sleep maybe 8 months in. My sister came over and took Ryan the first time, but I think it took 8 months for us to like get a full night's sleep in, and then we were like drunk because we got
It might be a little bit rose-colored glasses as well. You're talking 19 years ago now for Ryan, aren't you?
hmm
Yeah.
Assuming that sleep happens. Yeah.
20
You'll
years
get
ago.
sleep. It's you know what? I'll tell you the truth. Everybody makes it sound worse.
No,
I think
it could
everybody
be
makes it
really
sound
bad.
worse than it is.
No.
Well, everyone's going to be different, right? Like,
Well,
Yeah.
that's
I
just
just,
it.
I'm
right?
kind of like ignorance is bliss at this stage. Whatever
Exactly.
it's
You
happening.
can't tell though. That's the thing is like you can't tell what you get. Like Ryan was the worst baby. He wouldn't sleep. He wouldn't eat. So it was like he would fall asleep while eating. It was just like the two of us we literally didn't sleep for the first 3 months. But then we had Rachel, and all Rachel did was eat and sleep. Like she loved
Right.
it. You gave her a bottle, she was good. She went down right away. And then
Second child's
Rhea,
blissful.
and then the third one, like to this day, she looks after herself. So when she was a baby, you fed her. She didn't never complain. She wasn't ever hungry. She wasn't ever not hungry. She didn't cry. Like
I
it
love
was
this
like-
that you go Ryan, Rachel, and the third one.
yeah,
Well,
and the
because
third
you
one.
forget the name, and that's why the
Yeah,
third
yeah.
one is so independent because they had no parents. So we had the same. Like Carly
We don't
was.
cuddle that one.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Carly being the first was attached to mommy's boob perpetually. Like that kid ate, slept, ate. That's all she did. Like I really got no
Yeah.
breaks. Like
That's
no
hard.
breaks.
That's actually really hard. 'cause then
Daniel
you're
is
really-
exactly like Daniel is now. Daniel is
Mm.
steady Eddie. Doesn't give a shit. And there's no bumps in his life. He was a nice kid, quiet, laugh here and there. The other
a
one,
good
Mamma
boy.
mia, what a temperament. And the same 26
And that's the
years
one
later.
that I remind you of.
That's exactly who you
That's
remind me of.
great. Yeah.
Pain in the ass, shit all over the house. I pick up glass. Every time Carly goes, you know what I do? I walk the house when she leaves. Okay, where am I going to find the cups and glasses? Yep, over there. Oh, got 3 tonight. That's not too bad.
It's a talent.
Unbelievable. What a skill set.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
okay. That's
Oh,
okay. Well, I shouldn't say when I trade him for anything. I might have at one time. But
It keeps things entertaining. That's for sure.
Yeah. Someday
No,
you'll tell
it's
yourself
all
that.
good. It's
No,
all
honestly, they're like the best things.
they really
They
are.
really are.
And they're better when they
Yeah.
get older.
Yeah.
Like seriously. Like I love the kids right now because they're like they're
Yeah,
more
yeah.
friends.
Yeah.
Like we traveled with Carly.
I was going to say
and-
you can travel with them
Oh,
and
it's amazing. It's
Mhm.
it's awesome.
join a glass of wine or whatever. And
Well,
Yeah.
you can have conversations, and I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, every stage is better than the next stage. I'm
Yeah.
loving this one though. This 26, 25, 24. It's stellar. I love it.
I remember my dad saying he likes us from 0 to 5 and then from 20 onwards.
Yeah, that's probably about right. You're a lot of work between 5 and 20.
Yeah.
That's
You're a lot of
what
work.
he was happy to just cut out for
Yeah.
15 years there.
Yeah.
Just take a little break,
Yeah.
come back later,
Come back.
let mom do all the stuff, kind of figure out the world.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
No,
Sounds
I
right.
sometimes we wish that we had like mainland Chinese parents, right? So we could just send them home for.
Insane, this culture. I love it. Yeah. So
But
yeah,
my parents
mainland
were like, my
Chinese.
parents were like down the street. And they're like, nah, we'll
So first
we got them for a
year,
couple hours.
So
and
many.
then,
The
you know.
first year, the grandparents get the kid.
That's
Yeah, right.
crazy, isn't it?
It's really crazy.
It's different, right? But you know what? It's funny though. But the kids all have these wicked relationships with their
It's
grandparents.
crazily different. Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool,
Yeah.
I reckon.
And it's wonderful because your grandparents, are way better than your parents because they
I
typically
totally
there's
agree.
no
I
rules,
almost mean
right?
crazy good. It's so interesting that you're so like when I first heard that, I was so ingrained in your own culture or your own way that it seems absolutely
Weird, right?
It's
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
I'm like, but there's sense to everything, I guess. But it is interesting.
It's different. It's kind of weird, right? But yeah, no, grandparents are awesome for that.
Man.
Makes sense.
Yeah, no good. You're almost there. You'll everything
Sure.
you thought will kind of leave, and reality will set in, and you just hope that God is a good reality and go with it.
Exactly.
Not much you can do
So
about it. You're gonna
ominous.
get what you get, play with it, and that's it. It's a lot of fun though. You're gonna enjoy it. You're gonna be a good mom.
Yeah.
You're gonna like it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But a lot of
Okay.
work, especially for the moms, because there's honestly,
You're a
there's only so
milkmaid.
much we can do, right? We're not.
Yeah.
We really prove our usefulness in those.
Yeah,
first
I've
couple
got to say,
months.
I'm kind of thankful for our generation. Well, I'm speaking of my own life, but at least the husbands are far more involved than I'm sure my grandmother's era and stuff.
Oh
Yeah.
God, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. And you'll be more involved than we were, and we were pretty heavily involved.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as we, I mean, we couldn't obviously breastfeed, but I'd get up, we'd do the thing or try to help as much as you can because they're a lot of work. There's no, I mean, I remember bringing Carly home. It was funny. We drove up to the house, we take her out of the car, we go in the house, and there's nobody, right? Because her mom and dad weren't over yet. My mom and dad were in trail. And I think I can remember we put her on the blue reclining chair, and we just looked and thought, like, fuck, now what do we do? Like, there's no book, there's no manual. This thing doesn't talk. Like, it can't tell you shit of what it wants, doesn't want. Like you're just looking at thinking, like, what the hell did we do? Like, this is a lot of responsibility. Like, this thing's 100% dependent on you.
I think
that's terrifying.
It is, and yet you sit there and you just look at this thing, and it's like,
I think Kathy asked that like the second day. She was like, "What have we done? Did we make a mistake?"
A little late now, dear. Yeah, a little late now.
Yeah.
So you had two more, and that's what your solution was, right? That was how you figured it out.
Yeah.
We'll try 2 more times, Kathy. Then let me know after the third. If it's still a problem, we'll shut it down.
No, so what was really funny was she actually, like, I always wanted a third. She was like, "No, we're done after 2 now." All right, So I made the appointment, to go shut everything down, and then she wouldn't let me do it.
Really?
And I was like, I don't understand. You said you don't want anymore. No, we don't. So why don't I shut it down? Well, that's really definitive. Let's, and then like, having to
shut it down.
But it's pretty interesting because it's so both your wives are accountants, so to speak, right?
Mm-hmm.
Period. Yeah.
And both still working today and loving it and professional and stuff. So what, like I'm saying in that era, you're not that old.
In the olden days,
25 years ago,
20 years ago and stuff. What was the kind of norm for you guys? Did you guys take any time off, or you worked all the way through?
There was no such thing as paternity, right? So what we did, so I had Wednesdays off because I was in the stores, right? So I had Wednesday off. So I would take care of the kid, or when the kids came, I took care of the kids on Wednesdays.
Were you with LD at this stage?
I was with London. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did a close I did a middle on Monday, so I would have them in the morning, then I'd drop them off on my mother-in-law's. And on Friday, I would do a close, so I would be home till like 2 o'clock, and then drop them off at my mother-in-law's.
So
And
you
then-
could kind of be flexible. So
Well, I could have a couple
Really
days, so I could at least do something. And now this is after I think Carly was already probably. I'm going to get this wrong, I'm sure, like 7-8 months, and then Amelia decided to go back, right? Like, because again, if you different people, different things. Like if you ask Amelia, I you know what? I think being home, like she did not like it.
No, exactly.
Like she did not like it.
You kind of just all got to find your group. I reckon the challenge becomes if you. Well, hang on. This is a really making some assumptions, but I think when people are forced into one or the other, for whatever reason, financial reasons or anything, that they've got to be pushed back to work and maybe they needed more time at home, or the opposite being that it makes more sense for them to stay home or whatever.
Whatever. And some people do it for emotional reasons. They just don't want to be home.
Yeah.
That's because
again, this doesn't make you a bad person, a bad mom, bad dad. It's just
it is what it is. Right?
It is what it is, and
every
life
situation
changes
so
different.
much. They've only got child interaction and no one to like really actually life with or whatever it is.
And then I've got others, Chloe, that I swear to God, that's all they wanted to do.
Yeah.
Right. And then I know others, like seriously 3-4 days they're back at work. Right. They're all good parents. They're just different, right? I mean, it doesn't matter the quantity of time. I mean, there's some probably truth to quantity, but for the most part, really, when they talk quality, it is quality time. The time you spend is the time that counts.
Yeah.
Right.
It's challenging.
And you've got the in-laws in Vernon. You've got Robbie, who's a little flexible. Like you've got some
exactly.
Like it's
we've got a pretty good surround system. I would say
for sure,
especially with Robbie's flexibility with his kind of work. Although like he can't commit to having full days at home. He can move his stuff around.
But that's fine. You can shuffle. Even if you get hour nap, a 2-hour nap, or you get to go.
That's exactly right.
Walk in the park or go drink a beer. I don't give a shit what you do. It's just some
or launch a new brand like Vital. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, now you're talking smart though. See, a couple weeks ago I wasn't too sure. See, now I'm thinking, maybe I don't know. Maybe there is some. See, now the 5-year plan. The 5-year plan is the 5-year plan's got someone in it now. See, whole different world. Month ago, I'm thinking, wow, this is like we got 6. No, I don't know now. Could be years.
God. You never know.
Oh my gosh.
Remember hormones.
No, but this is recorded, so it's too late.
Oh, it's on. Yeah, it's too late. We're done.
As soon as it goes live, it's over.
It's over.
What's the listenership this day?
Billions, just like McDonald's.
Oh my God. So
wait, this is being recorded, but since we've started, nobody actually has any idea who I am.
We're about to tell them who you are and what you promise.
Because we all heard it. It's recorded.
I've been listening to enough of your podcast to know that sometimes it can take 20 minutes before we're actually.
Well,
we're consistent.
So we're a little ahead of schedule. So yeah. But we have Chloe Holyman on, and she is the director of marketing at Martin and Pleasance North America. And so she runs brands like NRC. No, not brands like, but she runs NRC, and she runs Harmony and Key. And we are really excited to have her on. Kenny and I both get to work with Chloe a lot, and we love it.
Absolutely.
Love it. And so we've been trying to get Chloe on for
about 2 years.
I don't know, about 2 years.
About 2 years.
Yeah. Like that no good Mark Sterling has been on this show like twice already.
Yeah, even Mark's been on.
Yeah.
It pisses and moans while he's doing it, but at least
I remember the first time that he went on and how nervous he was.
I honestly, really, what a chicken shit, right? It's a podcast. Like the guy doesn't shut up. Like the guy's like, it's not like he doesn't want to talk, right? And all of a sudden, now you're shy.
Yeah.
Even this afternoon, I was laughing in reflection, being like, should I be? Of course, I was nervous. This is a very, very prestigious opportunity. I'm like,
now you're just being mean.
Yeah, now you're just lying. It's not even funny anymore.
I love it. Hey, I'm a long-time listener. First-time caller.
Awesome.
You get a prize for that too, eh?
Yeah.
You get to be with us for years.
Yeah, exactly.
Congratulations.
Lucky me.
We're never leaving.
No. I think I'm very excited to see what the list of questions are and the research that Kenny done in my history.
Yes. Because on the drive home tonight, I said, Chloe's on tonight. He goes, yeah. I said, what are we going to talk about?
Yeah.
I said, do we
always bring in my accent and start asking random questions.
Won't even understand half of what she says. Like, what are we doing?
Exactly.
All right. Tell the audience about you. Who are you?
Who am I? Yeah, so I'll try and relate it a little bit to This Commerce Life and what you guys obviously want the theme of the podcast to be around. But so Chloe, Australian accent, probably dead giveaway. I've been in Canada now for coming up to 5 years. So I came over with the plan, I think, a 3 to 6 month kind of, I was working for the sister company of Martin and Pleasance in Australia, which is the head office there. And at that time, we just relatively newly started distributing into Canada or wanting to invest more into the space. So this is back in 2017. So we had been here for a little maybe 4 years prior to that. So I wanted to come over. This was Richard in Australia, Richard Holyman and Richard Pollock kind of joining forces. So I thought I'd come over, do a little bit of training, educate on some of our key brands, being Key and Harmony. And lo and behold, I meet my husband, and it's nearly 5 years later.
This is a long training program. Are you done training yet, or?
5 years, that's a long time to train.
You're actually not.
Training's maturity.
Yeah.
And your dad doesn't like being a training ground like this, eh? Like, we got to hire more experienced people. This training thing is
I'm
too
doing
small.
so much training in the upcoming. Like, I love some of my colleagues, but Stella will utilize what she needs to get the results that she wants. So I don't actually recall ever saying that I was okay doing trainings, but somehow I've got them all signed up.
Yeah.
Stella's brilliant at what she does.
So I've still got to do a bit of the training thing. Yeah, but prior to that, so prior to 2017, I entered the world of brands in like 2013. So I've always loved brands. Just the growth. And when I say brands, I think it's slightly different in marketing, and Phil, you probably can kind of relate to this, but some people love advertising. They love content writing or different aspects of it.
Yeah.
I think with brands, you have your fingers in a whole kind of multitude of little areas. It will be from, Kenny, I love working on pricing structure with you. There's all these different things of almost
So many
getting
facets.
behind the stuff. Yeah, like it's you really own this little business thing that you take ownership of. And I've always kind of loved the idea of getting into the psyche of humans. And I think all those things kind of affect why you choose a brand, why you don't choose a brand and stuff. So I think I would have been young when I kind of really started to just love the idea of brands. And I always wanted to go more the kind of your route, Phil. Like, I know you weren't Procter & Gamble, but you were in that kind of space.
Yeah.
And I always kind of thought that was the angle that I would go. And I got, I think it was like a 9th round out of 10th round for a Mars scholarship, or not scholarship,
Wow.
grad program, in like 2012. And no, not Mars, Unilever. And it was based in Singapore. And I was in Melbourne, Australia, for those listening. And didn't get it, and it killed me, as you can imagine, right? Like 9th interview.
It's just devastating, right?
9 interviews.
Totally.
Like, that's so ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
So
Like,
what happened on the 10th interview?
Take that much effort.
Like, we just don't
I
think
was
she
like-
has it. Like, she had it for 9 rounds, but not the 10th. Like, what did you learn
Exactly.
that you wouldn't have learned in 3 rounds? Like, what?
No, exactly. It was interesting,
pretty
and
absurd.
I'm trying to think as well what that last, because when I go through rounds, I know a lot of them were testing rounds. That was probably just on a computer and like things that you'd have
Mhm.
to fill in and submit, and but proper questions and brand plans and things like that. And then obviously it's your grades from your university and all the rest. But yeah, was devastated on that. And so that would have been 2011 or something.
Okay.
And yeah, always thought I'd go more the big brand angle and kind of learn the processes, but loved the idea of it and
Mhm.
the name behind it, right?
Mhm.
So, you'd laugh now that nobody, well, I don't know if you laugh, but nobody really knows the Procter & Gamble or the Unilever, and everyone always says that.
Right.
It always surprised me because I knew them early on, but I think it's because I always targeted them as like wanting to work for them.
Mhm.
And anyway, I didn't. And I'm really, I guess you could consider it fortunate that, as you guys know, that my dad has been a businessman my whole life.
Mhm.
What he lacked at giving at the home, he was always at the office, but it was a 7 till 7 man being at the office. And I kind of got to watch that growing up, right? So I kind of got to watch him buy small businesses and try and turn them. And he definitely was not some big business man. He would take small things and just try and make them better and stuff like that. So I think I did just learn a lot from seeing him, whilst most people's conversation around the dinner table was probably, how was school? What did you learn in music class or something?
Yeah.
Ours was all
Why are you
very,
looking at me? Huh? What?
yeah, music classes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I recall ours was always very commercial
Business-focused.
business discussion, and that was young, and my friends would always find it interesting coming over, but it would be, what internships are you applying for, or
Yeah.
so but I liked it. I found it really interesting. So when I didn't get those jobs, I started, is this the longest way to explain who I am? I hope
No.
No, man, it's your
One-
show. It's your
One,
hour.
it's your show, so you
Yeah,
spend
write
it,
it,
and it's
whatever you wanna
actually
say.
no, it's pretty
I
interesting.
find it interesting,
I actually
though.
like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, and then I think I went more into like the PR, or went more unique to specific job functions of marketing, or however you want to define it.
Mhm.
And then a grad position came up at Mutton and Pleasance, which for those listening is my dad does own Mutton and Pleasance. And I begged him for an interview. I'm not kidding. Like, begged on my knees. And he was even like,
Really?
I don't know, I don't like giving things away type thing. And I was like, look, at least
Wow.
let me meet with the
Seriously?
marketing. Yeah, 100%.
What's the matter
At
with
least
him?
let me meet with the marketing manager. And he was good about that. Like, he's like, okay. And lo and behold, it's kind of me and my personality. Of course, I was best friends with the marketing manager by the end of the catch up and stuff. And I'm sure she got put into a bit of a position. What does she do here? It's my boss's daughter. But I think I was very determined to make sure that it was never a handout. And Dad helped with that. Like, he never
Your dad's pretty
Yeah.
tough on you. Like you're like objectively speaking, your dad's.
I think he's just very passionate about separating personal from professional, even though it's a family kind of run business. He's kind of good at recognizing if I wasn't the right person for the job, I would.
Well, he would have no hesitation telling you that,
Yeah.
what, you're not going to
Yeah.
stay in this position because you don't fit. He would tell you.
That's right.
Oh, 100%.
That's right. And I hope he never listens to this, he'll kill me for saying this. But I remember getting the grad job and saying, but Dad, in all honesty, like, what happens if this doesn't work out? Like, will everything be fine? And he goes, oh, we're not that close anyway.
Oh damn!
That's
Oh
awesome.
damn! That's
That's
hilarious.
good.
Totally. I think taking the perspective, well, obviously as a joke, but making it very clear that he picks a business first, so make sure it works out.
You know what, though?
That's so
In all
funny.
honesty, it's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Because when you muddle shit, you're just going to get shit. Like, you just will.
Yeah.
Like, you really and truly will. You can't do this. So it's true. If you needed help, you'll get help. You need something, he'll find it. But you're not gonna screw up the business because you're family. That's bad business.
No, but
That's
I don't
right.
think
And Kenny,
that.
there's two.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. You go.
No, I just don't. I think that's mostly true, but I don't actually think that's true for everybody, because I don't think
No, yeah.
everybody thinks of it that way.
There's a lot of
They're
people that
supposed to, but
Pattison does, like Jimmy Pattison's
But
not
they
going to
don't.
give anything to his kids, right?
right.
Unless they're working in it, because again, it's not about handing out, it's not about nepotism,
Yeah.
because nepotism gets a lot of companies and a lot of problems. You hire the kids and stuff to keep them busy, but there's a lot of kids who've buried
Yeah.
family
Yeah,
business because they've never
yeah.
had the interest, or they didn't
Yeah.
have the it's mine,
Or
it's
there
not
wasn't
yours.
a risk to it, right?
Right.
Like it was like I did it and then somebody would cover for me.
Exactly,
if it
but
was
you
wrong.
knew
That's
in
right.
your
And,
world
and it's
that
actually not fair on either side.
no, it's
Yeah.
not.
And I think that's always been the benefit, that it's been a very strong line in the sand. And on both accounts, I don't really feel like, I'm sure I've had benefits, because I can't tell you what it would be like without.
For sure.
100%, even if it's just access to conversations that most people just wouldn't have the
Mhm.
access to, because it
Mhm.
would just be randomly said in the kitchen, and it might
Exactly.
be a passing comment, but it's there, right? So I
Yep.
have that visibility. But in saying that, it's always been a very defined line that has made me work for the position. So I haven't ever felt, so everything I've achieved, I guess, I at least have the feeling that I can take ownership and
Mhm.
feel proud of
Mhm.
that as well.
Mhm.
Which I think is really important for any person in their career, right? To not
Yep.
feel, that's the whole
100%.
reason we are.
100%.
It's
Yep.
like, well, obviously,
Yeah.
financially it's important, but
Yeah.
you need other drivers. And then on the other side of things, I've never at all felt glued to the job because of family type thing.
Right.
Well, I shouldn't have ever felt like that. If I have, it was
Mhm.
incorrect. So yeah. So
Wow.
yeah, I've been at Martin & Pleasance, which is a small, medium-sized business. And I think, hindsight being 2020, that I don't think the Mars or the Unilever would have really given me the same access to so many different job functions
Mhm.
as what I've had. I've
Mhm.
been fortunate enough to kind of grow and had my voice heard and gain responsibility along the way. So it's interesting that small, medium-sized businesses can give you a lot as
Right.
well.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
And just so
Um,
listeners are clear, it's not really classified as a small business. Like, you are definitely into medium size, right?
Yeah, look, like
Yeah,
you're
right,
you're
definitely,
you're not a Unilever, but
No.
Martin & Pleasance is a
It's a good
global
size.
brand that has significant breadth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It has significant market share in Australia in particular, right? But in other parts
Yeah.
of the world as well. And you're pretty large when it comes to like, natural health products as well.
No,
If you think of it that
100%.
way.
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess our North America subset was on the smaller size, but
Mhm.
That's because you haven't seen the
starting to
10-year
get up there
plan
too.
yet.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
haven't seen tomorrow's meeting yet.
Easy
The
now, a
4-year
5-year
plan.
plan.
You know what? Well, no,
We call it a 4-year, but it's actually 5. So I don't know. I don't know
You're
how we
trying to
got
hook-
to 4.
Go
but
say 10 years. She'll hang on. Just relax. Phil,
Had more
follow
years.
the story.
Like, how are we going to do this in 4 years?
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah.
That's why you might have to stick around for like 10. Where you going? Relax.
Oh, you're ambitious. I just want her for another year after the baby. That's what I
Yeah.
want her for.
No, I had some
Yeah.
good discussions today. We're shooting a little longer than that.
Oh,
Oh,
Lord.
man. Would you mind, because I think like NRC is a vitamin C drink. I think for some of our listeners that'll be pretty familiar, but the other
Yeah.
two kind of like big brands like Harmony and Key probably aren't something, at least not in this part of the world.
Yeah.
They're not really
No.
household names. Do you want to kind
Mhm.
of share a little bit about that? Because they're actually quite interesting, what you're trying to do in
Yeah,
that
for
space.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I always find it kind of, you can paint a picture so much better if you can give a bit more of a story of the brand. But Harmony and Key, they're both natural. So everything that we do is natural health products at Martin & Pleasance. And Harmony is our natural women's health range of products, and Key is our immunity focused brand, and they're actually both based on traditional Chinese medicine. So they've got some kind of very unique benefits to them, and quite actually a long history. So you're right, we haven't really been successful as of yet in penetrating the Canadian or the North American market and really becoming a household brand. We have been much more successful in the Australian market for sure, but of course there was clearly more better results based on the strategic efforts that were done in Australia, but also historically speaking, these brands were formulated or created in 1990, and it was actually created from an amazing naturopath and herbalist called Rod Berger. And he was this guy that studied in China for about, I think he studied in China, in Guangzhou, China, Phil, correct me if I'm wrong, for about 15 years. And he came back to the Australian market, and the first thing he recognized when he set up his clinic was that at that time, so many women were coming into the clinic and looking for a solution to menopause, but it wasn't talked about. Nobody discussed it. You couldn't really go into a pharmacy and find too many recommendations or anybody to really provide recommendations there. So I think at the time it was Remy Femin, which is a German brand, that was on the shelves in Australia. And then not too long after that, I think Promensil entered the market as well, into the Australian market, which I know most North American people are familiar with if you play in that space. Anyway, he started mixing up herbs and stuff in his clinic, and he was getting pretty much outstanding results from these women. And some women actually came in not even knowing what menopause was or what they were going through, just that they had these crazy symptoms. So a really interesting thing is he actually started creating the formula based on relieving, not so much relieving the symptoms, but relieving things like, okay, heat in the body. All right, I know this herb helps with heat. So he would find, you know what I mean? So he actually wasn't looking at it and going, okay, what can I do for menopause? It was more like adding all these additional things based on what kind of symptoms were happening. And lo and behold, you have the creation of a very unique formula in Harmony, which primarily is menopause products, but have obviously grown out into sleep, into stress, into PMS symptoms, and will continue to grow, ensuring that it kind of stays true to some obviously brand unique selling propositions, being unique formulas. In Australia, there's nothing more flattering than people copying you, right? And in Australia, a few other brands started to kind of take what the Harmony formulation was and try and make their own, within copywriting rules, I'm sure, but their own kind of versions of that product. So
very close form of flattery.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Nothing more flattering than that. And it is the number one brand in Australia for menopause in Pharmacy Channel there, which Pharmacy Channel's a big segment of the category there. And key, uniquely, like when I say a simple formula, I probably more mean it's the ingredients, high dosage, high quality in pretty much all the key SKUs. So what is there, seven or eight SKUs under the key brand, and it's all about immune support, defense, building up your immunity. The first product that he launched underneath that was the Key Immune Defense and Energy formula, which would be the best performer to date. And he pretty much kind of took exactly when he was in China what you would do if you needed to relieve a cold and flu. And then the next thing was all sourcing and ensuring dosage and stuff like that. And it hasn't had to change since 1990. And I think that says something pretty unique as well, right? That like you've got the formula and you stick to it, and there's no kind of adjustments and stuff, because it still is that best formula out there. Because as you know, we're creating new SKUs to provide extra support if needed as well. But yeah, so some really cool brands. I think the the thing that I love the most about some of the brands that come out of Martin and Pleasance, because probably I'm a marketer, but I'm sure the sales team people realize this as well, but you won't find anything else like them on the shelves, right? So one of the easiest things to say about Harmony when you walk into a Whole Foods or wherever, it's if you have 5, and Kenny and Phil, I know this drives you insane with some of the planogram subsets where you've got 50 of same product, and where do you look? What do you, where do you go? The majority of them will contain very similar ingredients. And I think it's really cool to have some products on the shelves that are very unique, but obviously trusted and trialed for 30 odd years, and successfully so have kind of proven themselves in the market. But it's interesting, Phil. It's really interesting what I've had to learn and switch my mind of. I think there's a huge assumption that the Canadian Australian market mimic each other, and what works there is going to work here. And multiple brands do it, right? Multiple successful brands in Australia come here, and we know we work with
similar mindsets, right? Surprising.
Yeah, come here and they go, I don't actually need to take the consumer down the journey that I've already got to 20 years later after being in Australia. I'm just going to go in, go loud, tell about how I'm Australian made, and it's been a big learning journey, even just for me, to understand all the small little things that you wouldn't recognize on the surface that are very different in the markets as well.
So I wanted to Chloe and I joke about this a lot because we're pretty simpatico about the way we think. So it's funny because I was curious what surprised you, or what has surprised you, that's different Australia to Canada, right? Like it's funny because Americans come to Canada and decide, well, we're a big brand in the US, we can be a big brand in Canada, but it doesn't work that well, right? A lot
Canadians
of times
do that with the States
doesn't.
too, in fairness, Phil. Like both countries don't understand each other really.
But I feel like Canadians that go to the US have a better, like, one, because in fairness, it's because the market is much bigger, so you have a better chance, statistically, you just have a better chance of surviving. Whereas when they come here, they're unprepared for how small the market really is and how condensed it is. And then they fail to kind of notice all the subtle differences about us, right? But Australia is not that different of a market in terms of size from us. Or geographic challenges, right? But so what have you noted? Have there any like funny things or weird things that you've noticed in there that are different?
So the major thing that I do notice, and keep in mind that I'm about to do exactly what Kenny's been trying to train me to get my mind out of. I am going natural channel, and I'm probably going too small-minded here. But
Kenny's probably like, damn it, all this work, and
he's like, think math.
All good. No. Think where it makes sense. That's the rule of life.
But I do have to say the market here, in the channels that we have been the most successful in, being natural and natural grocery, are very well educated to, I don't mean this kindly, to a nuisance. Your consumers can know more than, a lot of these brand owners and stuff. So how critically important it is to know everything about your brand, know your ingredients, know your competitors' ingredients, like understand what they actually are, where they're sourced, all that stuff. The second thing, and it's not as if those things aren't important to the Australian market, it's just where they sit on the priority line as far as what creates value for the customer. The second thing would be the importance, but also the visibility on local. That, like, I think there's a very clear understanding in Canada that is in the back of your, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's part of your culture to support local, in my mind. Like, I feel like, and maybe it's US thing, but I think Australia has always been an island, and there's almost a more, okay, I'll tell you what the difference actually. there's been a more Hollywood uniqueness, excitement about actually importing brands into Australia that kind of gives it this like almost olden day, oh my God, I once saw this brand in Europe type thing.
Right.
Like, I can't, but I don't know if Canada
understand
seems
that.
to have that same excitement. So going in as a brand when you're an Australian brand and saying Australian from like the beaches of Australia, I've noticed with this few brands not even in our category that have kind of tried to play at that game. It doesn't resonate. I really noticed that with a few of them.
Doesn't it mean we're more spoiled or entitled? I think that's what that means.
Potentially, yeah. Yeah, no, exactly.
I do think that, like, you know, because particularly if you're in Ontario or BC, actually, the kind of like two of the bigger markets, because getting to the US is pretty simple, right? Like from
It's right
Toronto
there.
to get to New York State, it's a couple hours drive. Like Seattle's a couple
Seattle's
And
hours
the
two
drive.
options of brands and cool
Yeah, and
different
so the
chocolate
world's
sizes
kind of
and-
your
yeah.
oyster, right? So I feel like
Mm.
I feel like a lot of times Canadians go, it's about time it's here. You know, I was in New York last week or a couple of months ago
Yeah.
and I saw
Right.
it, right? But I feel like on the island, it's like, oh God, everything takes so
we got to
long.
remember we have a neighbor literally, like you said, a couple minutes away that's got the
Yeah.
biggest consumer market on the planet.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
China has the numbers, but not the breadth.
Yeah.
I mean, everything's in the States.
Yeah.
There's
It's
shit
right.
that shouldn't even be in the market that's in the
Yeah.
States. Do you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
it's everything's down there. So like when you're this close and you go down there, like you do, you it's funny. You feel, I'm sure
Yeah.
you walk through a store and you think, shit, this is down. When do you think it's going to come up? Because it's been here like a couple of years. It's got to be coming up soon. Like you just wait for things because you know sooner or later they're going to come up. Like we're going to get it.
Like,
And,
So
and the
it's-
States
yeah.
also has a bit more of a Hollywood effect, right? So I
Mhm.
think you've already got that kind of cool
Yeah.
aspect put on it that
Yeah.
you don't really get from Australia. It's interesting though, watching in the last couple of years on me being more engaged in the fashion industry though, and Canadians are really loving Australian boutique
Mhm.
brands
Mhm.
when it comes to fashion. And I do think Australia has some pretty incredible boutique brands out of there. Like I now notice that I gravitate, even if I'm served an ad, that I'll always click through on the Australian fashion brands. And then the amount of times that I've had it shipped over and I didn't even realize it was an Australian brand. And I'm like, So I get that it's a little bit in my culture, but I do find
I thought we were just
I find that
fixated
a
on the
little bit-
boots. What are those?
The Ugg boots. Oh no, you
Ugg
mean the
and the ones with the loops on the front and the back.
Bloodstones.
Blundstones. They've been around like 30 years, and like Canadians are just like fixated. Like
You still can't get Vegemite across the line though. I'm not really sure what that's.
that's okay.
No, we listed it years ago.
That's okay.
Did you at LD?
I nobody
don't-
liked it. Just Australians. There wasn't enough of them.
Yeah, Tim
Too
Tams
well
are
and
great.
Whistler.
Tim Tams are really great. Those are
Tim Tams,
totally
we
cool.
love Tim Tams.
Yeah. Those are
Right,
okay.
Tim Tam Slam.
Yeah,
That's fun.
they're still around a lot.
Yeah.
But actually feel like I don't know if I found any one like hugely different thing or assumptions that were made. I reckon one of the biggest challenges is as well is that when you grow up in a country that it's all that network that you grow over time, or it's these small things that I recognize probably more in marketing, but it's things that you just know. You know which radio station, you know media sources, you know
Right.
that, you know, in today's world, some of the biggest influencers you may have gone to school with or know someone that went to school with. There's all those things that I think as a marketer coming over into Canada, that I really underestimated. I didn't realize how ingrained my network actually was in Australia. And I was not only, but I was 27 then. And so I didn't recognize how much I kind of built that, because you do build that over 27 years. You don't just build that over 5 years of working.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was
And then you come here and it's like, who? Like where
and
do
you'd
I
ask questions and I remember asking Mark a few times and he would just be like, I don't really understand the question. What's the radio station? I don't know. Google it. But that's
Yeah.
not really what I was
No.
asking. It's kind of like,
No, you want
do
to
you know
know, like when
anyone
you get in
working
the
at the radio station?
car, what's the
Yeah,
what's the button? Like what button do you hit and where does it go, right? Like
yeah,
it's because it's yeah, I get you because like sometimes when I drive to the US, right, you kind of put the radio on scan, but you hit a station, and you like you recognize some of the songs, maybe they play a good song list, so you leave it on that station, but you have no idea if this is one of their majors or you just happen to
yeah.
run into like a local,
That's
you know,
right.
yeah, I
And
get you.
that stuff really matters for
Hmm.
somebody expanding into a new
Hmm.
country. And I even mean that from a
Hmm.
brand perspective. So if you're a really successful brand in Australia or New Zealand or wherever you want to stay, and in today's world, that could be an influencer built brand. So I actually have an example of a friend that contacted that looks after a brand in grocery. They do everything from protein powders to protein balls to even spaghetti, chickpea spaghetti,
Hmm.
everything.
Hmm.
But this brand is owned by two extremely influential people, one that's got over 1.5 million followers type thing. And huge engagement, great following. So I don't want to say didn't actually like had access to this media platform being the influencers at launch for free of cost, right? So
Right.
of course, great. Like I can show that I do one post on a 1.5
Yeah.
million. Of course,
Yeah.
I'll go into this grocery store, this
Yeah.
grocery store, this grocery store. So they were looking to launch here, and he contacted me to kind of understand the market and stuff. And I was like, the one question he didn't ask that I just gave him the answer, of course, but I was like, does anybody know who this influencer is? And, you know, like in Canada, which they don't really, like you'd have to be pretty into the influencer game to kind of follow this person because they're very, you know, suited to the
Right.
Australian market.
Yeah.
So I think in today's world as well, it's not so much like it is all built on your network. So in the Australian market, you may have been built on influencers that were really successful for you, good relationships with media buying, all that type of stuff.
Hmm.
That I think if you don't have someone that is almost really ingrained and understands the world that you're about to play in, it's just a challenge
it's really
to be
tough.
really considerate of. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
It does.
So
It's actually, and it's difficult, right? Because even trying to figure out who actually knows what they're talking about and who doesn't in that situation is
Yeah.
really difficult. Like really difficult.
yeah, I felt
Yeah.
almost no, I did. I felt bad at my job because I was like, I could find an agency in Australia like this, and given was it a major priority to the company at the time, maybe not so much, but like I remember one year interviewing like 30 different agencies and still
Yeah.
being like, it's not what I'm
They all
looking for.
sound
I'm
the
like,
same,
how can
like-
I not find an agency? Like,
They all sound the same. What?
yeah,
Maybe it's just the same guy getting
Maybe
dressed in a different
apparel.
outfit.
Well,
Like,
I
what
think
the
I
hell?
think they just revolve around the same
Yeah,
doors.
yeah.
And
Like,
I
don't
found
kid
it
yourself.
really-
There's 30 agencies, but there's 4 guys that started all 30, so it's
Yeah.
the same 30.
Well, that's yeah,
Or it
exactly.
feels that way. That's not maybe a fair statement, but
But now
You know?
it's interesting because it's got to be something about me and what I had to kind of learn or understand or how to speak the language, whatever it be. I just can't define it. But now there's a couple of agencies I work in and out on campaigns, and they're great.
I think
I'm
it's like
really happy
anything,
with the
Chloe.
results. So I'm like, why does that happen?
I think what happens too is you were there, like Australia was your home, right?
Mm.
So the business already had people, you get to know people. So you're like you're saying your network is in some ways pre-built, like there's a base that's already there. And then, you know, you're young, so a lot of your friends are going into it. So you go. It's hard when you come from someplace and get plopped into a market like ours. And Canada's not a big country, but I always say it's not us. We have a neighbor to the south that's very high on themselves, and they always have been.
Yeah.
And they dominate this planet. So we kind of go with it. So you get a lot of, like, it's hard to network, and then you're also not in the right city, right?
Yes,
If you want,
yeah.
see, that's the other thing people don't understand about Canada. We really
yeah.
have 3 main cities, 4 lesser main cities, so 7, and out of the 7, only 1 really counts, and they know it. But they
Wait,
all want to be
who?
in the city that we're in. But
You're
that's a
getting
different
all
argument.
like proud and like
What? Who?
humble
What?
about
I
it,
have-
Phil,
I-
as if Toronto you own.
Well, exactly. It's the center of the planet, right? Because and you know
He's like,
they-
who?
I
Me?
Yeah,
have no
whatever.
idea what you're talking about.
I was
yeah.
talking about Winnipeg
Yeah. That's exactly.
or bustling Ottawa. Another, come on. I mean, so you think about it. I mean, where's
Yeah.
all the commerce in the country done?
Yeah.
Really? I mean, if you
Mm.
really want to come to Canada, and all that we tell you want to come to Canada, and you want to knock it off as a brand, like you want to go to the GTA. Don't
Yeah.
fuck around in
Yeah.
Montreal. Don't play in Vancouver. Lovely cities, great people, food's amazing, scenery's awesome, the cultures are great. But you know what? You want to play the game, you want the numbers, go to Toronto.
Yeah.
That's our country. I hate to say
I
that.
think that's well said.
You can
I
do
think
it
that's
here.
Very true.
For sure. But you want agency contacts? Toronto. Influencers? Toronto. Even if
Yeah.
they don't live in Toronto, you go to Toronto to get the Vancouver one,
You're right.
right? It's just different. And it's not
It
a
really
good or
is
bad.
hard.
We're not a big country. We're probably very similar to Australia in that you got one coast that really has all the population in the cities. And you
Yeah.
got about the same thing we do. How many cities do you really have? 4?
Melbourne, Sydney, Perth, and Brisbane are second, and Adelaide.
4.
Mm.
I'll give you 5.
I hope there's no Australian listeners. Just
But think
getting
about it.
offended by how much
Listen.
I didn't mention.
But Chloe, it's Canada. Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Ottawa, Montreal, Toronto. Done.
Yeah, no, I agree.
That's it.
And honestly, your majors are just Sydney and Melbourne.
Okay, so in our majors are what? Montreal, Vancouver,
Mm.
and Toronto. And the reason Montreal gets not the love it gets because politically they've had so much instability over 40 years. The
Mhm.
language is a bit of a barrier. So,
Yeah.
and our country has other barriers, as you're finding out, right? Forget the regulatory side. English, French is a big issue for countries that are only English. Like, why do I need 2 languages on this stupid bottle that
100%.
barely holds the one it has? Like,
How
where do you
I
want me to
fit
put this other
on my
language?
label? Yeah.
Exactly. Where do you want to put it?
Try going from like, those protein bowls that are just so popular, but I imagine something like that you then try and bring to Canada, and all of a sudden you've got to put it in an outer box and
Outer
Yeah,
box,
yeah,
or you have to do the,
Yeah.
the label wraps, and people don't understand. There's a lot of companies that look and think, man, I mean, really, that'd be great, but you're like 37 million people and really 7 cities, and one really only counts.
yeah.
You start doing the math and they think, well, we'll just go to the States.
I think that's very true. I think that's from like early days spending time in Toronto. I think it was this was back in 2015 when I just came over for a couple of months again to do some trainings and education.
Right.
And I do recall back then. I recall having much different expectations because I felt like when I'd been based out of Toronto, I'd already met, the people and the media and things like that.
Mhm.
And I think that's probably where my expectations
Probably.
fell short, but it's being based out of Vancouver where it's a very different commercial marketplace in a sense.
It's a different marketplace, right? And, and I'm from Vancouver. I love this city. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Oh yeah, it's been,
Right.
yeah. I love the
But I'm
food
also
that you're at.
pragmatic. I understand the limitations of our city.
But you're
Yeah.
you're
There's
in
nothing
the
wrong with
right.
that.
But you're in the right place for health, like natural health based.
We're in the right place for a ton of things. Like,
Do you know
by
what
the
I mean?
time
Like, Toronto
figured
is-
out
is
there was natural
good.
health, we were 10,
Yeah.
15 years into it. Because we have
like
California.
arguably you look at Vancouver and then you look at Montreal,
Montreal
and
got
probably
cool shit, too.
and probably both of them are better for natural health than
Way cooler cities for all the innovative cool
Yeah.
stuff. Seriously, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, you look at because one of the things that we have is Schussler, right? And like they're doing those kind of essential minerals in Quebec, and they've been doing it for years, right?
Oh my God, 100 years.
That's where the Boiron guys, all those guys, kind of come out of, is a strength out of
Right.
Quebec, right?
The Schussler game has always been far more east actually, and
Makes sense,
Toronto,
though.
Ontario included in that, and Ottawa. And for those that don't, Schussler tissue salts just went blank. They're based on homeopathically prepared products, but they're all like intracellular, so they're very unique modality. So they complement a lot of what you sell in stores and stuff, or what you see in stores, but it's a very specific clientele or person that has chosen to engage in the space, educate themselves. You know what I mean? Like it's
Totally.
and And it's quite
Totally.
interesting that the culture of that has very much seemed to been present and continues to be present out east in Canada.
Well, Bolron is a French company, right?
Yeah.
And
So it kind of
it goes to Quebec because language is not the issue. So really, the education of the whole thing, it was language to language, culture to it was different, right? And then as you come out west, that starts to become not flaky, but it's different. Plus, it's their side. So we would just follow more with California and Oregon and Washington State, and we would develop a lot of stuff too. I mean, we have a natural product that's worldwide, well known. Green is green. People buy a lot of it. We've got natural products in Canada too.
Yeah.
Now that we can ship legally to some degree, but there's a lot of cool things on the West Coast. But it's always been that, and the East Coast would just follow.
I'm such a prude. You were saying that, and I'm thinking. Like a greens plus formula?
Similar. It'd make you eat like you're eating greens plus.
Yeah. It's got some benefits.
That's very funny.
It's just different. It's different. And I think that's a problem sometimes with our countries that I don't know what Australia's like. If everybody's sort of down the one side, I'm assuming there's a lot of similarities between the cities. Like there's a lot more similarities between Vancouver and Seattle, Vancouver and Portland than there is Vancouver, Toronto. We really don't have a lot of similarities with Toronto or Montreal. I mean, Montreal's a unique city anyway, but you know what I mean?
You bring up a really good point that I'm probably just preaching to the choir when I say it, but I think that was a really unique thing as well, that understanding that there are more differences between Vancouver and Toronto than there are between Vancouver and LA.
100%.
And that isn't a thing of Australia at all. That to me was wow.
Yeah, it's mind-bending. It's kind of weird. You think seriously?
Totally. And then the middle, so realistic, if you actually look at it from a map perspective, you could quite have easily split these into a 3 across north to south versus
100%. Well, for us in BC, you just cut us off of the Rockies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Natural barrier.
In a lot of ways we follow the US regions, right? Like we just
similar.
We're just not
right.
We keep them by province, but really if you could break it up, the West Coast thinks West Coast, right? And the Midwest, our Midwest is funny, like the US Midwest, right?
It's very similar to the mid states. Very similar.
And then the East Coast, we're
same
as snooty as and pretentious as the New Yorkers, right? Like
or the Bostonians or the Floridians, and that's why you guys
we
all
happen
hang
to
up and
think
down
that
the
we're
side.
better than everybody else, really, right? So
and then going into the messaging, I think that's kind of what I recognize instead of let's go US and let's go Canadian and marketing different plans and stuff like that. I've had better easeability with looking at NRC of talking the same kind of ad copy that I would put on to some extent, but stuff that's going in Vancouver or the West and just running it down to California.
Well, that's why we remember I used to tell you, just do the I-5.
100,
It's just the I-5, just to go up and down.
The I-5. What's that mean? Is that a highway?
The I-5 is the interstate highway between, that goes from San Diego to Seattle, and it just runs the West Coast. I mean, that's why BC does
more
that.
Sense than
100%.
Trying to run Toronto the same ad across the whole Canada.
You can't you can't even run the same ad in Vancouver that you'd run in Calgary or Edmonton.
No, I agree.
Calgary's ads are different than Edmonton's. They're two different cities, completely different cities.
What's the definition of the region? The Midwest?
The
middle?
The Midwest?
Midwest would be more the states. We'd be the prairies. That's what we would define as our mid.
But the prairies,
welcome to Canada, Chloe.
Like Calgary, Regina, Saskatchewan, Edmonton, Winnipeg. Yeah. Similar to like a Minnesota, North Dakota,
Montana.
So
you just call it the mid?
Yeah. Midwest.
Midwest.
It's called the middle. It's just the middle.
The middle.
Yeah.
No, middle of America is different. Middle of America is like Arkansas, and they're very different, right? Arkansas and all of those guys, right?
But you driven through Alberta?
I'm better with my geography of Europe to some extent.
I've been through Alberta. No, Albertans are not Arkansonians. They are not Arkansonians. I will save them from that.
I'm just picking on the Albertans.
I've spent lots of time in Arkansas, and they're not Arkansonians. So
no. Only Arkansonians are Arkansonians.
Yeah.
Arkansonians, what a name. I love it.
Albertans are very different than BCers though. They're two different provinces.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
Albertans typically are much more American minded, or what if you met an Albertan, like you'd actually many times think they might be from the States.
Mm-hmm.
Different attitude, can do, like just no holes barred, like don't get anybody in their way. They'll do it on their own. They'll figure it out.
They don't like rules.
No rules.
Yeah, they're really
I
not
always
rule people.
I always found it funny when I came to the Okanagan for summer years ago. This is like 2 or 3 years ago. I said that like it was 10 years ago, just 2 or 3 years ago.
It's all good.
But one of the common things was, oh, look at all the red plates. I was like, and everyone's talking about red plates. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then it turned out it was Alberta.
And what was the first thing they all said? These people can't drive. They got on a straight stretch. They hit a corner and the whole world shuts down. That's wrong.
My husband's just piping in going, yeah.
Exactly. Well, we had him in, remember, Robbie, I'm from Trail. We got mountain roads. They come on the roads. Oh my God. You're thinking, please go home. Go home.
Fucking up our freshwater lakes.
That's, you tell them. Bringing all that milfoil over. You tell them. We're not in church. We're not in church, Clay. It's a podcast.
We love it. It's all good.
He's
it's
right.
all good. He's right. He's right.
Crying out loud, taking up all the lakefront property, make a goddamn mess of it. What's the matter with these people?
Ah, that's so funny.
That's
oh
funny.
my God.
You're
That is
allowed.
funny.
They've got tough conditions. They work hard. No, it's time that they.
It's funny, but it's just different, right? But again, so when you go back to your world, that's a whole different marketing plan. Then you go to the prairies, go to Mansask, whole different marketing plan. Then you go to Ontario, and you got to divide the province. You got the GTA and the rest. Whole different marketing plan. Quebec, well, Quebec is Quebec. The Maritimes,
right, and I really don't think that's another really clear definition. I don't think you've got that same level. Like, look, you've got Melbourne people that are far more kind of food culture versus your beach, but on the whole, you've got that, and then you've got beach kids. Obviously,
I get it. Yeah,
you know, generalizing a lot, but I find it probably more complex than what you would anticipate when coming into the Canadian market as well. That there are a lot of different cultures happening.
So many different regions.
A lot of different cultures happening.
For 37 million people, think of it.
That's right. So I think as well, the market is actually small, and then you want to actually target market it down.
Exactly.
And how many does that actually bring you to? Fine. And then you want to put a specific product like a menopause into it. So now you're actually talking to a natural consumer. You're not talking to the potential 4 million women going through menopause. You're actually talking to those that are natural, those that have accessibility to the distribution.
Really,
right?
Like tough market.
Yeah.
And now you're back into where? You're Vancouver, because what you tell people in Vancouver is different than we tell them on the island.
Yeah.
Very different than what you tell them in the interior.
Yes, that's it. That's
brutally different than you tell them in the north of the province. So we even in our stupid province, we have 5 or 6 probably distinct regions. And Ontario would be, I'm sure, very, very similar, right? It's really
you're
difficult.
Completely correct. And the demands of each are quite different.
They're all different.
So even just discussing the island, in my experience, that has been the very in touch in ingredients list, understanding.
They'll tell you what's in your list.
Yeah, they do. That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's a different mentality, right?
Yeah. No, really interesting, really true.
Just makes it more difficult though, right? Is when you come in, it's just, and I think that's what people don't appreciate sometimes. We're not an easy, I know everybody thinks we're the States. We're not the States. And even the States, as you're finding out, there's so many regional differences, like so many differences.
And as a culture, Canadians are very approachable, open, nice, all the things. As Dad would laugh, hates confrontation. So I'm sure there's probably a cultural perception when you are launching a brand into this country, when you're not from here, that, oh yeah, they'll love it because they're friendly. I'm sure just culturally, subconsciously,
I think
there's
so.
that, and it is far more complex than that, I think. Yeah. Not to mention a lot of stores as well, in comparison to Australia, where you've got 2 major grocery groups that you've got to get listing, and then you've got 5 to 10 major kind of chemist drug channel.
Right.
And you've really penetrated probably 80% of the market, maybe more, 90%. Here, God, how long did it take me to learn? Like, and then
Yeah.
people
go
don't
to
get it until they
States.
get here, and then you got Quebec,
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
a whole new
Yeah.
wrench, right?
5 years in, and I'm just willing to start to learn and understand the Quebec market.
But you're right. But you can do that on the next 5 and 10 year plan. We don't, not today. Just have your child first.
Thank you.
Not
That's
today.
good. I appreciate
That's
that.
what
We
dads
try.
do. Just take it easy, okay? Relax.
Yeah.
We'll talk
yeah,
about this in September, October. Just
I
you
know.
can relax right
It's
now.
so funny.
It's funny, but yeah,
Oh
but
my
but I think yeah, huge opportunity. I think you get some loyal customers when you do get that customer acquisition.
I
in
think Canadians
Canada,
are that
for
way. I
sure.
think we're pretty low. Once Canadians stick to something, I think they do. I think they'll stick to things.
Yeah, yeah, and I think there's something really cool to say about Canadian consumers, that they are willing to almost teach you, as kind of said, that like what ingredients need to be in a product, or I don't know, there is a kind of cool two-way communication kind of thing that you do have with customers in the Canadian. They care.
And there you go.
There we go.
Should we let her go to sleep?
Yeah.
Was that riveting?
That was riveting. I liked it.
I
really liked
enjoyed
it.
that.
I'm really glad you
How
finally came
hard
on.
was that?
It's about fucking time.
It wasn't that big a deal, right? It's pretty easy peasy.
Yeah.
No, it's
That's
really
awesome.
nice. You know what? I do say I always love catching up with you guys anyway.
No, it's a treat for us too. I enjoy
We like it.
I do.
We like it a lot.
My two mentors.
Oh
Ah,
God, poor you.
Do you feel
poor
old
you
now?
is right.
Poor
Poor
you.
Can I
you.
call you a mentor?
But
You
Phil's an old man too, Chloe. Just
call me
don't
the
take it-
kids, I'll call you the dads.
That's okay.
that's fair.
Been called a lot worse.
That's fair. That's fair. We
yeah.
accept.
All good.
Chloe,
Yeah.
thank you for coming
Thanks
on.
for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys.
No, it's
I'll
fun.
speak to you probably 3 times tomorrow.
Yeah,
Talk
probably.
tomorrow.
Probably.
I'll be in the office.
No, it was
tomorrow.
awesome. As I said,
Yeah.
I have been a long-time listener. First
Yeah,
time
thank
caller.
you.
So I love
you.
it.
Yay.
And I'll speak to you tomorrow.
Go to
Okay.
sleep. Tell Robbie we're watching out for the Albertans. We'll get them out of our damn lakes.
Oh,
Thanks,
wow. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Ciao, Chloe. Phil, stay on for a minute.
Yeah, I love her.
It's hard not to.
Yeah, she's
It's hard
amazing.
not to.
Yeah.
You know, and it's she's been pretty fortunate that, you know, at a young age, 2 different countries. I mean, you know, she probably doesn't see it now, but you know, she gets close to 50 and she'll be talking to people, and she's done 2 countries, and like, you know, and who knows by then. I mean, she'll still be with us
Mhm.
because we know we're not going to lose her. But you know what I mean? That'll just how it plays. We're not losing her. We're gonna have to figure this out.
I think, yeah, and I think the thing, honestly, that I think that she wouldn't say, and her dad wouldn't say, right, is like, if anyone kind of listens to that and says, you know, owner's daughter,
No, my God,
I would
nepotism does not
say,
run deep.
like, you've never met the Hollymans. They're
No.
tough on their kids,
We-
right?
we
Like,
get an easier ride than
yeah,
she does.
yeah,
100%.
yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Anyway, I
Anyway.
thought it was good. I was glad she came on.
Yeah,
And
me too.
then,
I'm glad she did it.
yeah,
That was good.
yeah.
That was good.
Awesome, dude.
Okay, buddy boy.
That is
We
it.
can shut this down. Thank everybody for listening, and
Yeah,
you and I can
thank
stay on for a minute.
you. Yeah.